Grissom hitting 143 for the year, and he takes the first pitch for ball one. The umpires for this game: Jerry Crawford behind home plate, Steve Ripley at first, Bill Hahn the umpire at second, and Terry Tatum the umpire at third. 1-0 pitch, a called strike, and it's 1-1. Grissom hit .257 last year with 3 home runs in 98 games for Montreal, and he fouls off a fastball. It's 1-2. Grissom also spent a little time with Indianapolis last year, was in 5 games, hitting .182 with 2 home runs. And again, the foul ball.
Of the 3 rookies that Montreal had in their lineup on opening day of last year, DeShields, Walker, and Grissom. Grissom, the expectations were higher for him than the other 2. But last year, both Walker and DeShields had better years than Grissom.
Again, the 1-2 pitch, and it's strike 3 call. Got him with a fastball. There you see Buck Rogers, 502 wins as a Montreal manager, which started back in 1985, and the batter Junior Noboa takes a strike. Noboa hitting 1,000 so far this year, 1 for 1. Starting at second base for the first time, and the fastball fouled away, strike 2. Viola appears to be throwing a little bit harder than he did in his first start. Gave up 8 hits in 6 innings against Philadelphia, allowing just 1 run. He left the game losing 1-0 and did not get a decision as the Mets came back in that game. And the fastball again right in on the hands, and again, as Tim pointed out, Viola inside, establishing the fact he'll throw in there.
You hear so much about football teams having game plans. Well, pitchers have game plans too. You don't do the same thing every time out.
He goes back outside. That's 1-2. The one thing about Viola, his out pitch is his changeup, which is low and away, and you have to set up that change by coming inside with a fastball. 1-2 pitch, and he comes inside but low, and it's 2-2. The boy hit .266 last year. He was devastating against the Mets, and he got a little screwball there and hits it off the end of the bat, and it's hauled in by Keith Miller, the second baseman.
Number 27, left fielder Ivan Calderon.
So 2 men out, and that'll bring up Ivan Calderon, newly acquired from the Chicago White Sox in the Tim Raines trade. He's paid dividends so far this year. He has driven in 7 runs and is hitting .360. Mets finally got him out with a runner in scoring position. He had been perfect with runners in scoring position, batting 1,000, but yesterday they got him out for the first time when he was struck out by Doc Gooden in the first inning with a runner in scoring position, but he's still 6 for 7 with 7 runs batted in with runners in scoring position. The fastball foul, so it's 1-1. Calderon hit .273 for the White Sox. There you see the doctor. The 14 strikeouts against Montreal yesterday, tying the all-time high for strikeouts against Montreal in their overall history. Nolan Ryan and John the Count Montefusco striking out 14 previously. There's a losing pitcher yesterday, Dennis Martinez. Fly ball to right, the wind a factor today. Brooks over near the foul line, hauls it in. 1-2-3, and the score at the end of 1/2 inning. Montreal nothing. The Mets.
For New York, Vince Coleman, Vince Van Gogh leading it off. Keith Miller at second base hitting second. Greg Jeffries batting third. Hubie Brooks will hit fourth, followed by Tim Tuffle. Mark Carey on the 6th spot hitter. Rick Cerrone catching and batting 7th. Kevin Elster hitting 8th, and Frank Viola will bat 9th.
And Vince Coleman to lead it off, hitting .167 with 4 base hits. He does have 8 walks. That's tied for first place in the National League. Coleman with 4 stolen bases and 4 attempts for the Mets. And Navajo's back, and it's hit foul off the end of the bat down the right side. 1 ball and 1 strike. Mets in first place. They have a record of 4-2. Pittsburgh a half game behind, 3-2. Philadelphia also a half game back, 3-2. Cardinals are 2-3, a game and a half out. Chicago 2-3, a game and a half out. Montreal 2 games out in 6th place. And it's ball 2, 2 balls and 1 strike. In the the National League West, the Padres lead with a 4-1 record, a game and a half up on the Dodgers in Cincinnati. They lead San Francisco, Houston, and Atlanta by 2. And ball 3, 3-1. American League East, Toronto leading by a half game over Milwaukee and a game up on Baltimore. And it's ball 4, so Coleman now leads the National League in walks with 9.
Second baseman, number 25, Keith Miller.
A lot of things you can do now. You see Coleman, a little gardening over at first base. Keith Miller trying contact lenses in spring training, and there was a mild irritation in the right eye, so he had to go to those, looks like Sabo's glasses.
Sabo's goggles, huh?
Chris wears those goggles and has been wearing them for a long time, but we'll see if Mike Cubbage and Buddy Harrelson put the runner in motion. A lot of things you can do here. Miller can wait until he steals, then bunt him over. You got a guy on third with 1 out. You can hit and run here. A lot of things to do in this situation.
Miller 0 for 2 in the year. Goes after the first pitch, drills it down the left field side. It's a base hit, a good driving running try, but Miller will make second base standing up, and the Mets now have runners at second and third with no one out as Miller goes after the first pitch.
We left that option out, didn't we? You can also double down the left field line. I think Buck Rogers is telling his pitchers, with Coleman on first base, make sure you don't fall behind trying to watch Coleman. And the way you know, baseball is a funny game. You can always counter whatever the other team's trying to do, and the way to counter that is to swing at the first pitch.
So runners at second and third, and the batter will be Greg Jeffries, hitting third for the first time. He'd been in the second slot through the first 6 games from the Mets, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1. Jeffries hitting 167. 4 for 24. He has driven in 4 runs. And that's ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes. Mets is a team hitting 200 coming into this game. They've had 4 home runs. Kevin Mitchell of the Giants has 5 already. And a pitch back for ball 3, 3-0.
How about Dave Winfield of the California Angels last night? 5 hits, 6 RBIs, 3 home runs, a double and a single. All-time total base record for the California Angels in 1 game. 15 total bases last night for Winfield.
California with a record at 4-1, but trailing by a half game. The White Sox are perfect. They're 4-0. Oakland also 4-1, a half game back. On deck batter Hubie Brooks. 3-1 the count to Jeffries. And ball 4. So the Mets continue to get their walks. That is the 50th walk that they have received this year, and they're playing their 7th game.
The Detroit Tigers have 4 players: Pete Incaviglia, Rob Deere, Cecil Fielder, and Mickey Tettleton, who struck out over 120 times last year. And there's talk about the Tigers breaking the strikeout record held by the Mets. The Mets as a team struck out 1,203 times in '68. Well, the Mets have 50 walks already as a team. So the Mets are on their way. You never know how it's going to go, this being a bizarre week, but they keep going at this pace, they'll break the team walk record.
And the Mets on 2 walks and a double have the bases loaded for Hubie Brooks. Hubie hitting .304 with 2 home runs, 2 runs batted in. 7 for 23, and he takes ball 1. And we're going to have Larry Bernard take a stroll to the mound here as Montreal is in deep trouble. Coleman walked. Coleman at third base, moved to third on a double by Keith Miller. And then Jeffries walking behind Miller's double. The Mets have the bases loaded, no one out. Larry Bernard, the pitching coach and a former pitcher for the New York Mets. Mel Stoudemire, the pitching coach for the New York Mets for Buddy Harrelson. Buddy in his first full year as manager of the Mets, and so far with a record of 4-2. 1 ball, no strikes, the count to Hubie Brooks. 6 career Grand Slam home runs, the last off Frank Viola.
And none last year.
That's ball 2, 2-0.
Brooks had 1 Grand Slam home run 6 years in a row, and then last year he missed 1.
Really in the slump, huh?
Yeah, right. The grand slump.
2-0. Fouls off a fastball, 2-1. Crowd on hand on this cool afternoon. Seasonal type temperature for this time of year, but still breezy and cold here at Shea Stadium. Chris Nabholz working with a 2-1 count to Brooks. And it's fouled off, out of play again, 2-2. Nabholz, a winning pitcher against the Mets. In his first appearance ever against the Mets. You're looking at Tim Tuffle on deck. He won 2-0 over the Mets on September 20th. Gave up only 1 hit, a single by Tommy Herr in the 6th in that ball game. His best pitching performance in his major league career, and this is only his 2nd year. 2-2. 3-2. So a full count with the bases loaded, no one out.
If you're a hitter, you're saying yum right now. You know you're getting a fastball. You've got to get a fastball right here. But you got to make sure it's a strike.
Coleman jockeying up the line at third, trying to distract the pitcher. And a 3-2 pitch, a fastball, and fouled off.
Good spot, blowing away. Nabholz wild so far, but he paints the black on Hubie Brooks on a 3-2 count.
Nabholz, born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, lives in Pottsville, PA. Again, the 3-2 pitch, and again, it's a fastball, and again fouled away. When Nabholz made his debut in the major leagues, it was against the Philadelphia Phillies. His mother chartered a bus for 48 friends to come and watch him pitch. He had a no decision. That's a lot of passes. 48 passes, 49 actually. I'm sure his mother didn't pay her way in. 3-2 up the middle, and a base hit. 2 runs will score. Coleman from third, Miller from second. The Mets lead at 2-0 to play at second base. Jeffries back in safely.
First baseman, number 11, Tim.
So Hubie Brooks, the hottest Mets hitter, stays hot. He finds a hole with the ground ball. I think Nabholz got a glove on that. I believe Nabholz got a piece of it, but that ball hit so sharply it continues into center field. And for Hubie, RBIs number 3 and 4 on the young season.
Mets scoring the first 2 runs of the game. When they have scored the first run, their record stands at 2-2, and it brings up Tim Tuffle. Still no one out. Runners at first and second. Tuffle looking for his first hit this year. He's 0 for 3. And the curve high for a ball.
See if Chris Nabholz got a piece of that ball. Nope. Like it got by him.
Shade late. Brooks getting his 3rd and 4th RBIs of the year. His other 2 coming on solo home runs. Tuffle takes a strike, and it's 1-1. The Mets benching Magadan, who was 2 for 5 yesterday, and Howard Johnson, who had a home run in yesterday's ball game, 1 for 3. Tuffle at first base in place of Magadan, and Elster playing shortstop in place of Howard Johnson. Another breaking ball for a ball, and it's 2-1.
I think Buddy would prefer the more positive approach rather than benching Magadan. He's playing Tuffle. I mean, you got to give your guys playing time. You can't go 2 or 3 weeks without playing them and then expect them to perform. I mean, they're just out of spring training a week ago, and Tuffle, Elster, carry on starting, Miller getting a chance to play against the left-hander.
This one is popped up in foul territory. Reyes, the catcher, making the call and catch, and Montreal picks up the first out.
Number 45, left fielder Mark Carrion.
Runners hold. Jeffries at second, Brooks at first, and the batter will be Mark Carrion. Carrion has been hot in a little bit that he's played, 4 for 10. And you're watching Mets baseball 91 on Universal 9 WWOR TV, Secaucus, New Jersey. Mets leading 2-0, 1 out, bottom of the first inning, the last game on this homestand. And Carey on the batter. Mark off of knee surgery. And with the sun shining brightly, this shades for Ivan Calderon in left field. Oh, the outfield very shallow against Carrion. The pitch, a curve for a called strike. Carrion has outstanding power for a utility type ball player.
Pull power.
It's a ball hard to his pull side left field. And again the curve. 1 ball, 1 strike. On deck batter Rick Cerrone doing the catching here today. Carrion has hit the Expos well. A little topper out to the second base side. The ball picks up the out at first. No chance at all for the double play, and Jeffries goes to third. Brooks to second.
The catcher, number 13.
So
Rick
runners in
Cerrone.
scoring position, but 2 men out, and the batter will be Rick Cerrone. Rick with a home run in his first at bat for the New York Mets. It was off Roger McDowell of the Phillies, and it tied the game in the 9th inning. The Mets went on to win it in the 10th on a home run by Hubie Brooks. Cerrone 2 for 5 so far for the Mets. And the fastball to strike. Cerrone hit .302 for the Yankees last year with 2 home runs. That's hit in the hole and a base hit. 1 run scores. Calderon with a short of the plate. It's offline. 2-run score. The Mets lead it 4-0, and Cerrone paying big dividends.
Number 21, shortstop, Kevin Elster.
Big dividends. I guess it'd be a bull market, huh? So far with Cerrone the first week, it's been a bull market. Early dividends. The Mets are hoping that it's a good long-term investment.
Well, certainly he has done a job for the Mets, picking up his second and third RBIs, his third base hit, and 6 at-bats. And he was picked up as a free agent, signed by the Mets on a look. Kevin Elster, the batter, and Kevin takes the first pitch for ball 1. Elster 0 for 1 so far this year, making his first start. And it's ball 2.
Tell you, you've really got to give Cerrone a lot of credit. I mean, not only were the Mets giving him a look-see, but usually if something happens to players that they are looking at, then something like an injury, then it ends up that that player is released. I mean, Cerrone broke the ring finger on his left hand, the Gooden fastball going right through the mitt, came back from that, and that makes his success in the early going even more amazing.
Young man from Seton Hall has done a job for the Mets. Elster now with a count of 2-1. And he fouls off the fastball.
Kevin 0 for 1 in the season, 1 for 15 in spring training. Playing sparingly down in spring training, nursing that right shoulder. Underwent arthroscopic surgery during the offseason. It's amazing what the medical folks can do now with players. Used to be career threatening, and now a couple of weeks rehab and back in there.
And the curveball outside, so it's 3-2. Cerrone, the runner at first, moving with the pitch with 2 men away, and the Mets leading 4-0. On deck batter Frank Viola. Galarraga, the first baseman, off to bag at first. Runner goes, and another base hit. So Elster gets his first hit. And the Mets continue to pound away. They will have sent 9 men to the plate here in the first inning. No action in the bullpen for Montreal.
Ralph, I was in Philadelphia over the weekend. Had a chance to catch Jim Bunning, who threw out the first pitch in Philadelphia. It's funny how, you know, it's been around forever. Jim Bunning talking about the importance of throwing strike 1. He learned it in Cuba when he went to winter ball, when he was a young pitcher, part of the Detroit organization back in the early 50s. Strike 1, the most important pitch. Think about the hits this inning. The 2 walks, the 3-2 hit by Brooks, 2 RBIs. The 3-2 hit by Elster. Cerrone hitting a 1-0 pitch. When pitchers fall behind, the strikes are much better for hitters to hit.
And now Viola, the batter, and he takes ball 1, and again Abholtz behind the hitter. Action now going in the bullpen. Bill Long is throwing out there. Mets sending 9 men to the plate here in the first, and this one will do it for Montreal. Abholtz picks up the ground ball, gets the out, but the Mets send 9 to the plate, score 4 runs on 4 hits. They leave 2, and the score at the end of 1. The Mets 4 and Montreal nothing. Now here's a word from Edna. Frank Viola. Viola retired Montreal in order in the first, and the batter will be Tim Wallach, and he takes the first pitch for strike 1. Wallach hitting 120. He's had 3 hits and 25 at bats. Slow start this year for the very fine third baseman, and that's a ball. It's 1-1.
Yeah, the Expos have had a history of good third basemen, starting back with Coco LeBoy, Bob Bailey, Ron Hunt.
This ball golfed out to left field, deep left field, and it's going, it is gone, goodbye. So Tim Wallach, his first home run of the year, and the Expos are on the board.
Very descriptive call, too. Golfed it.
Number 14, first baseman.
A growing trend over the last 10 or 15 years in baseball. There have been more right-handed low ball hitters. And Tim Wallach approaches the ball like a left-handed low ball hitter. He's got the same loop in his swing. Look at that pitch. Down and in. He crushed it.
So Viola gives up the home run. It's now 4-1 the Mets, as Montreal sends up Andres Galarraga, and that's fouled. That's fouled off, and a strike one. Galarraga hitting .208. 5 for 24 this year with no runs batted in. One ball, now 2, and it's 2-1. Ground ball to the shortstop, Elster. And Elster picks up his first assist. Elster played in 60 consecutive games without making an error, setting a record for a shortstop.
Right fielder, number 33.
It was broken
Larry Walker.
last year when Spike Owen of the Montreal Expos played in 63 games without making an error. Had the record for about 6 months. Now the batter, Larry Walker, and it's in there for a called strike. Walker 1 for 3 against left-hand pitching. Overall hitting .300, 6 for 20. He's sort of the key to this ball club. Grounded foul. 1-2. Montreal considered to be a strong contender for the championship in the National League East, and a lot of the weight on the shoulders of Larry Walker in his second year. Foul back out of play. Walker, Canadian born. Slow ground ball to the second baseman, Miller. So 2 men away.
Generally speaking, that is the best place for a left-handed pitcher to pitch a left-handed hitter. Tight, especially if the left-hander's ball runs in on the left-handed hitter. Watch how Viola ties up Larry Walker. You see that approach, that coming in with the hands. Whenever you can make a hitter do that, you take away from his power, you take away from his extension, and you may break a bat here and there too. He broke Walker's bat.
Now the batter is Spike Owen. He takes a curveball for ball 1.
Can't do that to a high ball hitter. Most high ball hitters have that good extension and top hand, but if you're a low ball hitter, you can really bust them inside, and that's what Viola did to Larry Walker then.
He hit that ball with his elbows bent, his arms bent. You can't hit it at all that way. You have to get that top hand, the bottom hand I should say, straight to hit that ball hard, and that's in there for a strike. 2-1. Spike Owen hitting .235, 4 for 17 on the year. Three and 1. Mets leading 4-1. 4 in the first. Montreal getting a run back in the home run by Wallach, and this one popped up and playable. Second baseman Keith Miller making the call, and that retires the side. 1 run, 1 hit, and the score at the end of 1.5 innings. It's the Mets 4 and Montreal 1, and here's a word from Bud Light. Coleman to lead it off for the Mets here in the second inning. Coleman started the 4-1 rally with a walk. Obviously scored the first run of the ball game. And on the mound, Chris Nabholz, who weathered the storm in the first as he worked through the entire batting order to get a strike. Coleman hitting .167, but with his walk, he leads the National League in walks with 9. So his on-base percentage as a leadoff batter outstanding. 4 stolen bases in 4 attempts for the Mets. Did he swing? He did not. 2-1. Six pitches in the first inning. Only 13 of them strikes, which certainly backs up your statement, Tim.
There were some more strikes in there, but they were hit.
That's right. Two and two the count to Coleman. It's hit slowly through the middle. Of good pickup of the bad hop, and then he lost it in transferring the ball, so the Boa unable to pick up Coleman. That should go as a base hit.
I think you can tell by this play that Junior is no Boa. I wish I could get credit for that line. That was a line used by Steve Hurt of the Elias Sports Bureau last year. I fell out. Larry Boa, one of the great defensive shortstops of all time. Steve was saying that Junior is no Boa.
Well, there's no
and
question.
He's not. Good player, though. Good hitter. Pretty good second baseman. Not too many Larry Boas around.
So that was scored a base hit, and the batter Keith Miller takes the pitch for ball 1. Miller doubled on his first pitch, his first time up, setting up the rally for the Mets when they got 4 in the first. Coleman draws some attention. Holds the pitcher again to first base.
And again, ball 1. A lot of young pitchers, I think, fall into that habit of falling behind hitters more than older guys, because the older guys have lived down that path. They realize the value of staying ahead.
Again over to first.
A lot of younger guys, Ralph, come out there and they say, well, I don't have my good stuff, so I've got to nibble. Now, you know, when you think about that, when they don't have their good stuff, it's more important to throw strike 1. Because if you don't have good stuff, now you fall behind. Now that fastball's fatter than it would normally be. If you have good stuff, it's not as important to stay ahead.
There goes the runner. The pitch is taken. A quick throw by Reyes, and it's in time. So Coleman thrown out for the first time this year. And a fine play by the catcher.
The Expos spread it among their catchers, throwing out Vince Coleman. You remember Nelson Santovenia stopped Coleman 2 years ago when Vince had stolen 50 in a row on the 51st try. Santovenia nailed him. Mike Fitzgerald the next day, and now Gilberto Reyes.
This one punted out to the first base side, and Jeffries trying to cross everybody up. I should say Miller cross everybody up, is out at first base for out number 2.
Third baseman Brett Jeffries.
That'll bring up Jeffries. Jeffries walking his first time up. Mets leading 4-1. 5 hits in the game to the Expos 1. Jeffries takes a strike. Down the line, but foul.
Greg off to a slow start. That's why all those baseball sayings, hang with them, stay with them. That's why they come into being and are so popular. Greg has been going poorly. He did not have a good spring. And when you don't have good springs, you start hitting balls right at them. When your stroke comes back, when you hit balls down the line, they're just foul instead of just being fair.
Takes strike 3 as a fastball is called a strike by Jerry Crawford. That ends the inning. 1 hit, no one left. The score at the end of 2. It's the Mets 4 and the.
Check it out one more time. Almost, but it appeared that he was in foul territory when it hit him.
And the fastball getting away from Cerrone. Nobody on, so no harm done, and the count 1-2. Mets leading 4-1. 4 runs in the first. Montreal got a run back on Wallach's first home run of the year in the second. We're in the top of the third. This one grounded foul.
There are a lot of hitters that stand up in the batter's box enough to where when they stride, they're technically in fair territory.
Out of the box. Or in the box and in fair territory.
Yeah, end of the box. Of course, that's not so with Reyes.
Fly ball in the shallow left center. Over there is Coleman. The wind carrying the ball a little bit farther. And Reyes, who was 3 for 5 in the year, is out. 1 away here in the third, and that'll bring up the pitcher, Chris Nabholz.
The pitcher, number 43, Chris Nabholz.
Nabholz 0 for 2. And he takes a strike.
I think the encouraging thing about Frank going through the first 9 hitters is how many guys he has gotten out inside. He has really been pitching those right-handers inside, and they go back to the bench. I'll guarantee you all of them are looking for the ball away. They're looking for the changeup. Gets down the bench, and then the second, third time around, then you go back away with them.
Well, that one on the outside corner, a fastball for a called strike. Viola now has struck out his first and 9th batters for his 2 strikeouts in the ball game. Now he'll go to the top again, and Marquise Grissom. Grissom caught looking at a fastball his first time up. Hits it off the hands out toward the third base side. Viola grabs it, fires the first, gets the out of 1-2-3 inning. Good play by Viola. And the score at the end of 2.5 innings. The Mets 4 and the Expos 1.
Throughout Shea Stadium and at the Mets clubhouse shop in Manhattan. Don't miss your chance to be a Milk Duds Mets celebrity bat boy or bat girl in 1991. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited.
And the Mets celebrity right here, Hubie Brooks, to lead it off. Bottom half of the third, the Mets leading 4-1. Hubie with a single to drive in the first 2 runs of the game in the first, batting for the second time, and he takes for ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes. Off the hands, fouled back into the stands. 2-1 the count. You're talking about Jim Bunning and catching him opening day in Philadelphia.
Yeah, caught him 1971, and they had the 20th anniversary of the opening of Veterans Stadium, so I went back there to catch the first pitch. Shag Crawford was behind the plate. Bunning bounced the ball up there, and I'll tell you what he said to me. I said, Jim, what was that, an 0-2 pitch? And he said, no. Jim's a congressman, as you may or may not know, and he said, I didn't want to show up the president. Remember that President Bush threw out the first pitch down in Texas, and he bounced it. So Jim said, I don't want to show him up. So
Good politician, huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
He's learning very fast. Of course, if it had been a regular season game, he might have hit the batter in his first pitch.
He was a tough pitcher, boy.
Well,
he really was.
Second man to pitch no hitters in 2 legs. Cy Young the first. And of course, he pitched that perfect game against the Mets in 1964.
On Father's Day, wasn't it?
Father's Day. One of the great stories. Lindsey Nelson and Bob Murphy were up in the broadcast booth. I was down in the field to interview him. The between game show after the first game was won on the perfect game by Bunning. First game of a doubleheader. There's a 3-2 pitch, and it's ball 4. So Brooks walks. Let's get their third in the ball game. And while I was doing the interview, a beautiful lady came running out of the stands, ran down the field, and threw her arms around bunting the pitcher. And Lindsay turned to Bob. He says, "Is that his wife?" And Bob says, "I certainly hope so." National type TV.
Mary Bunting. They have 9 children, and their last will be married. 2 sets of twins.
Tim Tuffle now batting. Tuffle fouled out his first time up. Mets leading 4-1. A runner at first. No one out. Tuffle grounds it out to third. Wallach has to play it back. That will lose the chance for the double play. They pick up the force play at second. 1 away.
Left fielder Mark Carrion.
Now the batter will be Mark Carrion as Chris Nabholz ponders the situation. He's behind 4-1. Carrion grounded out to second his first time up. And he lines it to right. It'll be a base hit. Walker plays it on the bounce, and the Mets have runners at first and second as Carrion gets his first hit. The Mets' 6th of the game.
The catcher, Rick Cerone.
Remember, drinking responsibly makes good sense. Please know when to say when. A reminder from Budweiser. Mets leading 4-1. Runners at first and second, 1 away here in the bottom half of the third. And Rick Cerone, the batter. Rick with a single to drive in 2 big runs for the Mets back in the first. Big 2-out single for the Mets. He's now 3 for 6 in a Mets uniform. And it's inside for a ball.
It's almost like when you get a 2-out RBI, it's almost like it should count as 2, because you really have to deliver. There's nothing cheap about it. On a sacrifice fly, if a guy hits a triple and you hit a fly ball to the outfield, I mean, he's more responsible for that RBI than you are, and yet you get the RBI.
This ball in the air to left field. Calderon is there now after going back, coming in to make the play. Runners hold. Tuffle back to second. Carrion back to first. And with 2 men out, the batter will be Kevin Elster. Elster getting his first hit of the season with a single in the first inning. Now 1 for 2 in the year. And he pops up. A lot of wind here and a little trouble in the outfield, but Calderon comes in to make the play. That will end the inning.
His home run is first of the year. 1-1 to Noboa. Junior has aspirations of being a lawyer when his career's over. That's one aspiration. Vocation you don't often see in major league players as Noboa is thrown out.
A lot of clubhouse lawyers, but
there's a change of venue for Noboa, I guess you could say. This game is brought to you by AT&T Long Distance. All you need to reach out. And by Tropicana Pure Premium. Pure Premium, you can't pick a better juice. Ivan Calderon now takes a fastball outside. Calderon red hot coming in to this series, but the Mets have cooled him off a bit. 0 for 1 in this game. Outside, ball 2, 2-0. Ball 3. I know what you mean about that clubhouse lawyers. Years ago, you did it because the manager said so. And then the age of why came in. Late 60s, middle 70s. Guys started saying, why? Managers used to say, because I'm the manager. Now you don't do that anymore. You explain why. 4 straight balls to Calderon. The first walk issued by Viola, and that'll bring up the dangerous Tim Wallach. Outside corner, strike 1. Viola working primarily with 2 pitches. Fastball, changeup, but as we mentioned before, he has been coming in on right-handed hitters more today than we've seen him. No balls and a strike to Tim Wallach. Fly ball, right field. Brooks over. 2 outs.
Taking out the Macy's National League scoreboard. Philadelphia 3 and the Cardinals 3, bottom of the 2nd. Pittsburgh and Chicago getting underway. Atlanta and Cincinnati also just starting. San Francisco and Houston, and San Diego and Los Angeles.
Andres Galarraga now the batter. Grounded to short his first at bat. Entered the game batting .208 on the young season, and the change is swing and a miss. Managers are certainly different nowadays. Part psychiatrist, part counselor, father figure,
and often fired.
Friend. Of course, they were often fired 40, 50 years ago too, because they were recycled more.
You know, they went through that phase.
Excuse me.
The manager said do it, and you did it, and then it became why, and now it's becoming why me.
More excuses now, huh? Reminds me of Gene Mock's famous line. He said, I may not always be right, but I'm always the manager.
Gene was the manager of the Montreal Expos in their beginning days. Now making his home in Palm Springs, California. Says he doesn't miss baseball at all. That's hard for me to believe. He was really wrapped up into it. One of the best managers that ever managed in the major leagues, though he never did win a championship.
Came oh so close with the 1982 California Angels. That was when the playoff series was 3 out of 5, the best 3 out of 5, and they won the first 2 in Anaheim and then lost 3 in a row to Milwaukee. And then in 1986, 5 years later, they come back. They have the Boston Red Sox down 3-1, 1 strike away from winning it, Game 5, and the Red Sox remarkably came back to win it. They won the last 2 in Boston. So Gene coming ever so close. That elusive pennant. Still 1-2 to Galarraga. 4-1 Mets on top here in the top of the 4th. The debacle in 1964, one of which I was a recipient. I was with the Cardinals. Phillies up 6.5 games with 12 games remaining. We had 13. Phillies lost their last 10 out of 12 games. We won it on the last day of the season. Still 1-2 to Andres Galarraga, the Expo first baseman. We're in the 4th inning, 4-1 New York.
One of the last day of the season against the New York Mets.
Fly ball to center field. So Viola had come in to get the right-handers out, and now he goes away to get Wallach and away to get Galarraga. Fine piece of pitching by Frank Viola. Still 4-1 Mets. Middle of the 4th, we're back games, and then to Montreal for 3 games after an off day on Thursday. Then it's the Veterans Stadium, home of the Phillies, after an off day next Monday. So a 9-game road trip coming up for the Mets. We'll have games tomorrow night and Tuesday night from Pittsburgh. Game time 7:35 as Viola fouls one off his foot. 0-2 to Frank. 4-1 New York here in the bottom of the 4th.
Mets will try to use their influence on the confluence.
Oh, good.
When they move to Pittsburgh.
Hoping their influence is much better than last year, a year in which the Pirates won the National League East. Viola lines out softly to Owen.
Pirates off to a fairly good start. They lost their first game of the year to Montreal and Dennis Martinez. They have a record now 3-2. Yesterday, Barry Bonds was injured running into the wall at Wrigley Field. Didn't see whether or not it's going to be an injury that'll keep him out of the lineup.
Injured his right knee going after a ball in foul territory. Mike Bilecki, a strong performance yesterday as the Cubs won. Nabholz's first pitch to Vince Coleman's outside, 1-0. Vince has walked, and he had an infield single in the second. Wanted to bunt. He takes inside, ball 2.
Coleman with 18 bunt base hits last year.
Sharply off the glove of Owen, and he throws out Coleman. That ball coming right back to Spike. 2 outs.
Checking out the American League scoreboard. Cleveland 2, Boston nothing, top of the 5th. Toronto off to a great start, 7-0, top of the 3rd. Rained out Detroit, the White Sox there. Underway, the Yankees in Kansas City. Also California 2, Minnesota nothing, top of the 3rd. Baltimore and Texas, Seattle and Oakland later. White Sox 4-0, undefeated.
White Sox head for New York. They're probably on their way now. They play the Yankees 3 games. Curveball to Keith Miller. The Yankees returning from Kansas City. Miller 1 for 2 on the afternoon. 4-1 New York. Grounder towards short. And an easy inning for Chris Nabholz as the Mets go in order for the first time in this game. Still New York over Montreal 4-1. We're back after this from Sunoco. The top of the 5th, Frank Viola's first pitch to Larry Walker is strike 1. Walker grounded weakly to second, back in the second. High, ball 1, 1-1 to Larry Walker. That high rider again, and on the hands, ball and 2 strikes to Larry. The reason Walker was a rookie last year came about under unusual circumstances. He was on the disabled list in 1988 for the full season with a knee injury. Going down on strikes here, and that's really caused them to change the rule. They call it the Larry Walker rule. Prior to that, if a player was on the disabled list of a major league roster for the full season, then it actually counted toward his service. So in effect, he never really had a chance to be a rookie. So rightly, they changed that rule, and that's why Walker was a rookie last year. As Spike Owen swings and misses, he popped up his first at bat. 4-1 New York here in the 5th. There are a lot of players in the big leagues today, some fine young talents who have no chances to be rookies this year. Juan Gonzalez, that fine outfielder with the Texas Rangers. Alex Fernandez, the right-hander for the White Sox, along with Frank Thomas, the first baseman with the White Sox, Brian McRae of Kansas City. If you're a regular player, you qualify by having more than, let's say, baseball term, high chopper. You qualify as a player with 130 at-bats. As a pitcher, 50 innings qualifies you for a second-year player. As Carrion over and makes the play. Mark looked like he was having a tough time getting his glasses down, didn't he? 2 outs. Huh.
Well, Mark Carrion missed the latter part of the season because of a torn up knee, and you see him right here. He does limp a little bit going after this. Now he has trouble with the glasses, gets him down, picks up the ball, makes a fine catch. A catch a right-handed outfielder couldn't make in that spot, unless you catch it like Willie Mays barehanded.
Or Kevin Mitchell.
Kevin Mitchell, yeah.
Kevin Mitchell on Ozzie Smith's drive a couple of years ago. Kevin McReynolds is available for pinch hitting duties, we are told. Out with that bad right knee as Gilberto Reyes takes a curveball for ball 1.
They didn't have the Rookie of the Year honors until 1947. The first winner was Jackie Robinson.
Had the Rookies of the Year for 2 years before Roy Sievers was the American League Rookie of the Year in 1949.
Had a chance to see Roy in St. Louis. He's around that area.
Drive to right center, and that's going to drop. So Reyes continues his good hitting against the Mets. Folks, this copyrighted telecast is authorized under television rights granted by the New York Mets solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, or use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the New York Mets and Sterling AA Enterprises and WWOR-TV is prohibited. Any commercial or other use of this program, such as by charging admission for its showing, is similarly prohibited. As Chris Nabholz takes strike 1, and that base hit by Reyes probably kept Nabholz in the game. If Reyes makes an out, Buck Rogers more than likely would pinch hit for Nabholz in a 4-1 ball game in the top of the 6th. So pitchers stay in games in very strange ways. Chris takes strike 2.
A little strange he's still in the ball game here. They're trailing by 3. It's the 5th inning.
Hey, 2 outs. I think if it's none or 1 out,
he's out of it.
Yeah. And you got to figure, if you're Buck Rogers, you've got to develop a rotation early in the season. And by allowing him to stay in a game like this, maybe you boost his confidence a little bit more. He had a shaky first inning. He gave up 4 runs, but none since then. Tapper, Viola. After 4.5 innings, the Mets still over the Expos, 4-1, and we'll be back after this from, hey, what else? Canada Tourism.
Works here in the 5th inning, having given up 4 runs on 6 hits. And a ground ball hit hard to the shortstop. Spike on. 1 pitch, 1 away. You're watching Mets baseball 91 on Universal 9 WWOR-TV, Secaucus, New Jersey. 1 away, and Hubie Brooks the batter. Hubie with a big single in the first inning, driving the first 2 runs for the Mets. Also has walks, so he's perfect on the day. Hubie so far for the Mets with 8 hits and 24 at-bats. Batting .333 with 2 home runs and 4 runs batted in. Strike 2 the count. Hubie started his career with the Mets, went to Montreal, then to the Dodgers, and now back in New York. So Nabholz picks up his second out here in the inning and also picks up his second strikeout.
First baseman Tim Tuffle.
That'll bring up Tim Tuffle playing first base. A little Brooklynese right there.
That was French, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Moida.
That's how you spell it. Ground ball to short and Spike on. Digs it out, throws him out. A 1-2-3 inning. That is 8 in a row for Nabholz after giving up 4 runs in the first on 4 hits. The score at the end of 5. The Mets 4 and Montreal 1. Now here's a word from the New York Daily News. From Montreal, we're in the top of the 6th inning. The Mets leading by a score of 4-1. And the ball hit sharply to third. Good to second. A good play by Miller to take that vicious hard hit smash and turn it into an out.
Hey, this ball is hit like a laser beam. Little dotsy-do by Keith. And he throws him out. Good play.
Grissom now 0 for 3, but certainly hitting that ball hard. And with 1 out here in the 6th, the batter will be Junior Noboa, who is 0 for 2. Mets leading 4-1. They've out-hit Montreal 6-2. You know, looking at that order, the Mums sweatshirt that we saw. The bomb certainly goes with Brooklyn, but with Brooklyn moving their franchise to L.A., it wouldn't be, doesn't seem to fit to call the Los Angeles Bums. Nicknames sort of go with certain territories. A little foul ball, line drive, I should say, to right, and Brooks who cracks it down. So some real good defensive help. Fly ball out in right fielder, Brooks puts it away.
None of those 3 words go with Los Angeles. Moida, duh, or bums. Nice play by Hubie Brooks. Can you imagine people who do lunch talking like that? I mean, honestly.
But then again, you got the California Angels, and you kind of think of California in an angelic sort of way.
How about that swing? That was nice play by Hubie Brooks. Can you imagine people who do lunch talking like that? I mean, honestly.
But then again, you got the California Angels, and you kind of think of California in an angelic sort of way.
How about that swing? That was a situation where the bat took the arms through.
Calderon is 0 for 1 with a walk in this game. That's 1-2. Frank Viola in the mound. Fouled away, and count stays in 1 ball and 2 strikes. This is called the tail wagging the dog.
No, it's actually called walking the dog. Look at that. Now you put a leash on that and put a dog, and the dog takes him down the third baseline. The players call it walking the dog on a check swing, and you can just picture a leash on the end of the bat and a dog walking him down the third baseline. I love that term. Walking the dog. Well, that's what Ivan was doing on that changeup swing.
Fastball Topped out in front of the plate. Tough play for Calderon, and he has not enough time to make it. So that'll be a base hit for Calderon. Third hit from Montreal.
Yvonne gets out of the box very well. And this ball hit too far toward third base for Cerrone to have a play. So an infield hit by Yvonne Calderon.
Puts a runner at first with 2 men out. The Mets leading 4-1, and the batter will be Tim Wallach, who has accounted for Montreal's run with a home run back in the second. Another hard hit ball, and Wallach drives it down the line. It'll be a 2-base hit. The throw in to third. And now runners at second and third. For Wallach, his 301st double in his major league career.
Tell you, it's interesting. A third base coach, when a ball's hit down the left field line with a runner at first base, you see a lot of third base coaches pointing to the bag. If you're ever out at the ballpark and you see that runner, this ball clearly extra bases, but Tom Reynolds, the third base coach, pointing to the bag, and he's telling Calderon, don't make the turn, stay right there. And the reason for that is a strong throw from the left fielder to the cutoff man. Greg Jeffries could actually nail the runner at third. When you're on the right field side, a ball down there, you see the third base coach coming up the line to allow the runner to make the tag because the throw's too long, and very few guys will make it from the right side.
Now Viola in trouble for the first time in this game, and he gets a strike on his first pitch, pitching to Andres Galarraga. Galarraga represents the tying run of the plate. He's dangerous. One ball, one strike. Galarraga with 20 home runs last year.
So I peel Galarraga back from the plate. I don't think Frank's going to try to get him out inside. You want to try to impress him inside as he did with that last pitch.
He goes back outside, gets a pop-up. Great pitch by Viola as he changes up, blowing away to pick up a very big out for Viola. And he leaves 2 men on base. 2 hits, no score, and at the end of 5.5 innings, it's the Mets 4 and the Expos 1. And here's a word from Tropicana. Timer at the plate. Now we go to the bottom of the 6th. The Mets leading 4-1, and Mark Carrion will lead it off. Mark with a base hit and 2 at bats. Chris Nabholz, the starter, still in the game. Gave up 4 runs in the first, but since then has settled in and has given up no runs on 2 hits through his next 4 innings. And this one fouled away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Mets leading 4-1. They've out-hit Montreal 6-4. Mets getting 4 runs on 4 hits in the first inning. Fastball for a ball, 2-1. Again, the fastball. Another fastball right in on the hands. It's fouled away, and the count stays at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Nabholz, good young pitching prospect for the Montreal Expos.
I was just thinking the same thing. If he continues to throw like he has since the first inning, he's going to win a lot of games in this league. Fine talent. Plus, he's left-handed.
That is really a plus. And the breaking ball, another good pitch, and Carrion spoils it to stay at 2-2. Good location on that pitch.
It's funny. If you're a left-hander, it's certainly not any good in golf. It's not necessarily that good in football unless you're a punter. But basketball and baseball, it certainly comes in, no pun intended, handy.
Good breaking ball there for a strikeout.
Take a look at the Shell financial update for the week.
The catcher, Rick Cerone.
Market up 15 points. Standard Poor's 500 up a little over 5. New York gold down $1.60. Silver up a penny. And crude oil up almost 60 cents.
Now with one away, the batter will be Rick Cerone. Cerone 1 for 2, and the base hit, a big one for the Mets. A 2-run single with 2 men out in the first inning. Cerone tacking on the 2 runs, gave the Mets a 4-0 lead in the first inning. And the fastball fouled away. Strike 2.
Certainly in tennis, being a left-handed tennis player, there is an advantage.
Serving that ball wide on the ad court side. Two strikes to count. Nabholz working to Cerone. Fastball for a ball, 1-2.
Being left-handed, though, probably of all of the sports that we mentioned, there is a bigger difference and a bigger advantage if you're a pitcher in baseball, because they can do more with the least amount of equipment.
This one popped up and playable. The first baseman Galarraga making the call. Makes the catch. Also, being a left-hand batter is a real advantage in baseball, because you have that
Shortstop, Kevin Elster.
advantage of being closer to first base, 2 steps closer when you swing and hit it, and also you have the hole to hit through with the first baseman holding the runner on. Big advantage being a left-hand batter. There's Kevin Elster. Elster with a base hit his first time up. 1 for 2 in the game, starting at shortstop for the first time. Another one down the line, but it's foul. One strike count on Kevin Elster.
Barry Bonds, the update, we mentioned the Mets going there. He suffered a bruised left knee. I mentioned right knee earlier, but it was his left knee and thumb yesterday, and is doubtful for the 3-game series with the Mets. The Mets leaving for Pittsburgh after the game, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night.
This ball hit hard to left, but it is curving foul. So Elster back to home after just missing an extra base hit, and it's a strike 2 count. Tomorrow night's game will be on WWR TV. We'll be on the air at 7:30 for that game. It'll be David Cohn on the mound for the Mets against Zane Smith.
Met killer Randy Tomlin against Wally Whitehurst on Tuesday night. Same time, 7:30. We'll be on the air. Game time 7:35.
Left-hand pitchers against the Mets by the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates acquired Zane Smith from Montreal basically to work against the Mets. And this one might be an extra base hit. It will be. So Kevin Elster, after missing a double to right, a double to left, keeps it in fair territory and doubles the left center field as he gets his 2nd hit of the game.
The pitcher, Frank Viola.
There is nothing that Buddy Harrelson would love more for him to have than for him to have a tougher problem in deciding whether to play Elster or not. Right now, it's Johnson at short, Jeffries at third, Tommy Herr primarily at second base, but Buddy would love to see Kevin Elster's boost in confidence and see him get a couple of knocks. He knows he can field. It's a matter of whether he can hit enough to warrant again the regular shortstop's position.
He needs some base hit knocks, but certainly you can't knock him in the infield. He's the best fielding shortstop you'll ever want to see. Ground ball by Viola to the first base side, and that will end the inning. A double by Elster. Elster left at second, and the score at the end of 6. It's the Mets 4 and the Expos 1, and here's a word from American Airlines.
For the Expos here in the top of the 7th inning, the Mets on top 4-1. 7 hits for Montreal, 4 for New York, an errorless game so far. Walker has struck out and grounded to second. Ball 2, 2 balls and no strikes for the Expo right fielder Larry Walker. Ball 3. Viola has walked only 1. He has struck out 3. But it's 3 balls and no strikes to Larry Walker. There's a strike, 3-1. Line drive to left. Carry on broke back, and now he breaks in and makes the play. And that'll bring up Spike Owen, the shortstop.
Shortstop Spike Owen.
If the Expos get down to the pitcher, of course, they will be pinch hitting for Chris Nabholz. It appears to be Bill Long warming up in the bullpen. Spike Owen 0 for 2. Ball 1 to Spike. Ball 2. 2 balls, no strikes to Spike Owen. The Mets scored 4 runs in the bottom of the first inning, and so far that's all they've needed. The Expos came back with a Tim Wallach home run in the second. It's 4-1. This game, just like the weather, crisp. Ball 3 to Owen. Strike to Spike. I think you take another one here. Of course, that is not as much in vogue now in baseball. Little looper to right center, and over is Hubie Brooks, and that could have been ball 4 right there. But the game from that standpoint is played differently now. Ralph and I have talked about it in years past. That is one part of the game that is played poorer, in our opinion. Not speaking for you, but I mean, we've talked about it a lot of times.
I'll go with you because it's important to get those runners on base when you're trailing by 3 runs in late innings, and not that important to be individually benefited by picking up a base hit, where the walk might be the better or the easier chance.
Gilberto Reyes fouls one off. He's 1 for 2. One of the 4 Montreal hits. Wallach has 2, a home run and a double. There was an infield hit by Calderon. And Reyes with a single to center. Inside. They are giving Reyes not only the right field line, but the right field position as well.
Get an idea, he's a pull hitter.
So you see Hubie Brooks is almost into right center. And Reyes pulls the ball. He's jammed on the fastball, and Kevin Elster has an easy chance. And Frank Viola an easy inning. After 6.5, it's still 4-1 New York on our GE line score. Vince Coleman leads it off for New York. Mets enjoying a 4-1 lead, trying to run their record to 5-2 here in the early going. Vince 1 for 2 with a run scored. He was also caught stealing back in the second by Reyes, the catcher. Ball 1 to Vince Coleman. Chris Nabholz and Frank Viola. To Coleman. lot of the Mets take apartments out here in Long Island. Coleman is different. He's going to live in the city, live in Manhattan. Ron Darling lives in Manhattan. Most of the Mets, however, take apartments in Long Island, as Coleman takes a ball low. 2 balls and a strike to Vince Coleman. Outside, ball 3. 3 balls and a strike. Tim Tuffle lives in Greenwich, Connecticut, of course, where Mr. K lives, along with Palm Springs, splitting his time 7 months during the baseball season in Greenwich and the other 5 months playing golf every day.
Best of 2 worlds.
Coleman a walk. So Coleman obviously a threat to steal. We'll see what he does.
And on our Macy's National League scoreboard, St. Louis trailing now against the Phillies by a score of 8-6. That game in the 5th. Pittsburgh 3, Chicago 2 in the top of the 4th. 1-1 Atlanta and Cincinnati, bottom of the 4th. No score, top of the 4th, San Francisco and Houston. Later on, San Diego against the Dodgers.
I tell you, if those Phillies get any pitching whatsoever, they are going to score a lot of runs. That is a tough lineup. Keith Miller now looked to bunt, and he takes ball 1. Miller doubled in the 1st inning. Really ignited, certainly added to that 4-run rally. We'll see what Buddy Harrelson has the Miller-Coleman tandem do here. Coleman now with 552 career stolen bases. Miller wanted to bunt again. He takes ball or strike, I guess, called by Jerry Crawford. So it's 1-1 to Keith.
Now, talking about Coleman's stolen bases, he's ahead of the stolen base pace of Ricky Henderson, who has now tied Lou Brock for the all-time lead in career stolen bases.
I think he's one back, isn't he?
That's close.
937. I think it's 937. He's got one more to. Dang, he's been on the shelf, and a quote I read today was that he's going to be on the shelf for another 5 days. And another interesting quote from Coleman this week. Vince the Invincible said he's like a snake when he slithers towards second. Pitchers get rattled. Says his venom runs through their veins and into their minds. Ooh, ghoulish. You know, speed is much more arrogant than any other form and trait in baseball. There's an arrogance to it. You talk to all the great base stealers, and they love that arrogant part of it. And Vince is no different from it.
Can't take it away.
No.
It's there all the time. That's the one solid part of it. He said that, I guess, about Trackman, too.
Well, Miller wanted to bunt. He bunts it off the foot of Reyes, the catcher. So now it's a ball and 2 strikes. I guess Buddy electing to bunt here, and it makes sense because Nabholz looks like he's got a good move, that long stretch and kick to first base appears to be a difficult assignment on whom to run. So Miller now will be swinging away, one supposes, as Jeffries waits on deck. Grounds it foul, still 1-2. breaking ball grounded foul. So still a ball and 2 strikes to Keith Miller. The Mets on top 4-1. Chris Nabholz gave up 4 runs in the bottom of the first inning. Highlighted by a 2-run single by Hubie Brooks and a 2-run 2-out single by Rick Cerrone. 4 of the Mets' 7 hits coming in the first inning. Miller stays alive. Coleman has that look in his eye, Ralph, or in his eyes, that he just doesn't look like he's picking up Nabholz at all.
He's not had any jumps at all. A couple of times he's moved back to first on the delivery home. Nabholz hadn't been around long enough for Coleman really to pick up any tip-offs that he might have about where the throw is going, whether to first or the plate. Amazingly, Lou Brock said he'd rather steal against left-hand pitchers than right-handed pitchers. I don't know if that's true of Coleman.
And Nabholz varying his moves over there. One time he'll pick the right leg up and throw over. Then he steps over and throws over quickly. So he's got Coleman not knowing what to do so far. There's the variety in the moves. Those 2 moves over there just then. The step over and now the big high kick.
Right there, the high kick. Now, if he swings that front leg and back of the left, he has to come home. That's a fine line on the balk call against left-hand pitching.
More lenient in the American League. Left-handers get away with a lot more over there in throwing to first base than they do in the National League. The umpires are a lot more strict in this inning or in this league as far as that particular rule is concerned. Still a ball and 2 strikes to Keith Miller. Nobody out with Coleman on first. Mets up by 3. Not running, and this one hit deep to left field, and it's going to be off the wall and over the wall. So a ground rule double by Keith Miller, his 2nd double of the game, and Coleman obviously has to stop at third.
Well, Keith Miller benefited by Coleman on first base. He gets another fastball and he hits it hard. His first fastball back in the first inning on the first pitch got him a double, and right here the ball a grounds rule double. I'm not too sure whether Coleman could have scored on that because he held up to see whether or not that ball would have been caught or whether or not he picked it up to know where it was. So that's going to be all for Nabholz as he lasts 6+ innings and is knocked out of the box on Miller's 2nd double of the ball game.
So the Mets threatening once again. Buck Rogers and the Expos have made a move, and this call to the bullpen.
Youngest pitcher in the major league.
Greg Jeffries has walked, struck out, and grounded out. The infield in, tricking no one. We've mentioned that Buck Rogers employs that mobile infield. He'll play the infielders, the middle infielders back, and then have them move up, but they're up all the way this time. A ball and no strikes to Jeffries. 2nd and 3rd for the Mets, nobody out. They're trying to add to their 3-run lead. Curve, a strike for 1-1. is high, ball 2, 2 balls and a strike. Another curveball. So 4 straight curveballs from Bill Long has the count 3 balls and a strike to Greg Jeffries with Hubie Brooks on deck.
You got to look for a tough pitch here. He's not going to give in to him.
And he does it. Curveball is high and outside, so Long walks Jeffries, and that's going to bring up Hubie Brooks. It was Hubie back in the first inning in a similar situation against Nabholz. Bases loaded, nobody out, and Hubie delivered with a single up the middle. Mets fans love their Hubie. Very popular player was before he left. And the prodigal son returns. Inside and high, ball 1. Inside, ball 2. So Long coming in with runners at second and third, first base open, walked Jeffries on 5 straight curveballs. And it's 2 balls and no strikes to Hubie Brooks. As you look at the pitcher of record on the negative side, Chris Nabholz. Giving up 4 runs in 6+ innings, but should Coleman and or Miller score, they will be charged to Nabholz's record. It's 2 balls and no strikes to Hubie Brooks. Ball 3, 3-0. Lost it. 8 of 9 pitches were balls, and Tim Teufel will be allowed to hit. Now, the Expos do have a left-hander warming up in case Buddy Harrelson wants to bring in the left-handed batter, and now Larry Bernarth is coming out. So credit Hubie Brooks with a walk, and the Mets have, telling you, they have drawn 54 walks. This their 7th game. That's more than 7 walks a game. Harrelson. So now the infield in. Magadan pinch hitting for Teufel. The score 5-1. New York on top, looking for a chance to blow it open. Magadan with 2 hits yesterday. Off to a slow start. Strike 1 to Dave. No balls and 1 strike to Magadan. Outside, ball 1, 1-1. You could see Buddy having Tim Teufel go up toward the plate. Buck Rogers saw that, so instead of taking his right-hander out of there, he sent Larry Bernarth out to talk to him. Buddy knew that he was only going to talk to him, So that's when he made the move for Magadan. So he one-upped Buck Rogers on that move. Low, ball 2. 2 balls and a strike. Or I guess you could say he passed the buck. Two and one, bases loaded, nobody out. 5-1 New York here in the 7th. Outside, ball 3. 3-1. Mark Carrion on deck. Ball 4. 6-1 New York. There is nothing that drives a manager crazier than the happenings right now. And that's it for Bill Long as Buck Rogers stomps to the mound. Mets with the carousel going. His wife Valerie was talking to the commissioner before the game. He's lost a lot of weight, had an illness over the winter. He appears to look fit and feel fine. Glad to hear that. Mark Carrion the batter. The infield obviously still in. A 6-1 game. Carrion 1 for 3 on the afternoon. 8 hits now for the Mets. And this one, what a play by Galarraga, who comes home. Andres Galarraga shows why he's a 2-time Gold Glove winner. 1 out.
Well, you can talk about some great right-handed throwing first baseman. As fielders, Gil Hodges would come to mind, but this fellow right here is as good as anybody with the glove from the right-handed throwing side. He is an amazing first baseman. He's won the Gold Glove the last 2 years. And he does quite a job. He had a great play in yesterday's ball game.
For a big man, those soft hands. Terrific range. Rick Cerrone now drove in 2 with a single in the first. He's 1 for 3. Ball 1 to Rick. Ball towards short. Owen now will come home, and the throw back to first, double play. So the Mets scored 2. They could have blown out the Expos, but a fine job by Steve Fry coming in with the bases loaded, nobody out, and he gets this 6-2-3 double play to end it. 6-1 Mets after 7. We're back after this from Lexus.
We have a pinch hitter coming up for Montreal as we go to the top of the 8th. Once again, here's Tim.
Delino DeShields on a check swing, swings and misses. DeShields batting for the pitcher Steve Fry, who did a fine job coming in with the bases loaded, not allowing the Mets to put this game away. It's 6-1, 6-8-0 for the Mets, 1-4-0 for the Expos. 1-1 to DeShields. Ball 2, 2-1.
Shields had a 5-game hitting streak stopped in yesterday's ball game.
Ground ball right side. Keith Miller over to Magadan. Viola has been brilliant this afternoon.
Center fielder Marquise Grissom.
Giving up only 4 hits. Tim Wallach, a home run and a double, an infield hit to Calderon, and a broken bat base hit to Gilberto Reyes, as Grissom now flies to carry on. 2 quick outs here in the 8th. Didn't appear the layout hurt Viola either, that long bottom of the 7th.
A little bit of a second wind as you take a look at the American League scoreboard. Cleveland over Boston 6-0. That game in the 8th inning. Toronto also working on a shutout, 7-0 in the 8th. In Detroit, they were rained out. The White Sox undefeated there. Kansas City 4, the Yankees nothing in the 5th inning. 5-3 California, Minnesota. The California game is in the 6th inning. Texas 4 and Baltimore 3 in the 2nd. Seattle later against Oakland.
1-1 to Junior Noboa. 0 for 3 on the afternoon. Fly ball hard to left center, and Carry-On's not going to be able to catch up to it. Noboa into second base, and he has his first extra base hit of the year. He's at second with 2 outs, and that'll bring up Ivan Calderon.
On the ball with his second hit, he also was robbed of a base hit in the 6th inning on a fine play in right field by Hubie Brooks, so he eases in with a double. A runner at second with 2 men out, and Calderon the batter.
Ivan Calderon 1 for 2 on the afternoon. We have just been informed by Jay Horwitz that Vince Coleman has a tight groin. Nothing serious, but on the cool afternoon, the breezy, windy day, Buddy Harrelson prudently taking Coleman out of the game for precautionary measures. Ball and no strikes to Ivan Calderon. 1-1. The Mets with 4 in the 1st, 2 in the 7th. The Expos scoring their lone run in the 2nd inning. It's 6-1 New York here in the 8th. Change cued foul. Ball and 2 strikes to Calderon. You can see that dismay exhibited on the part of Calderon, that's shaking his head. He has not figured out Viola thus far. Way outside, 2-2 to Ivan. Jammed Magadan near the photographer's booth. I'll tell you, it was interesting there as Cerrone moved inside. Crawford, the home plate umpire, moved inside. Calderon pops out after 7.5, still 6-1 Mets, and we're back after this from the New York Times. It's a new pitcher.
Barry appeared in this series earlier. Former White Sox pitcher, and over here in the National League with a record of 0-0. 2.2 innings pitched. He's given up 2 hits.
Kevin Elster has had a good day, and he lifts one to left field way back, and it's gone. Home run. Kevin Elster, his 3rd hit of the afternoon. A single, double, and now a long ball. 7-1 Mets. Wow.
What an afternoon for Kevin Elster in his first start this year. And of course, he's part of that controversy. Does he play shortstop or Howard Johnson? And 3 for 4 here today in his very first comeback for the Mets. What a day.
Whew. I'll say, here is a man who was 1 for 15 in spring training. 1 for 15. His first start of the season, he goes 3 for 4 with a single, double, and home run as Viola grounds out 1 away. Now, we talked about it earlier. We talk about Buddy Harrelson would love to have this problem. 4 productive, make that 5 productive infielders. Miller's 2 doubles today, right in the heart of the 4-run first. Is that line about competition being healthy? We'll see. Darrell Boston's first at bat.
You know, the interesting thing about Kevin Elster, never in his career has he been pushed to earn a job. This is the first time he's had to earn one. He's always been such an outstanding player wherever he's been that he's never had to come back and say, hey, I don't have a job, I got to do something. So they're lighting the fire under him, so to speak, and he has come through blazing colors here today.
Boston back to Jones, and Barry throws out Darrell. So 2 outs here in the 8th inning, and there are 2 outs. Well, in the bottom of the first inning, a 2-run single by Hubie Brooks, and then a 2-run single by Rick Cerrone on our Whiz game summary put the Mets on top 4-0. Top of the second, a home run by Tim Wallach made it 4-1 as Keith Miller fouls it out of play. 0-1 to Miller. So with the score 4-1 in the bottom of the 7th inning, Brooks and Magadan both walked with the bases loaded. That made it 6-1, and to open the bottom of the 8th, Kevin Elster with his first home run of the year makes it 7-1. 1-1 to Keith Miller. Good slider from Jones. A ball and 2 strikes. Barry Lewis Jones, nicknamed the Bearcat. So the Bearcat gives up a home run to Kevin Elster, and that's it for the Mets in the 8th inning. 7-1, New York on top. We go to the 9th after this from the 9X Yellow Pages. Masterful this afternoon as Tim Wallach on the first pitch lines out to Mark Carrion, 1 away here in the 7th. Viola has given up 1 run and 5 hits as 25,944 have seen an impressionist at work this afternoon. And he has furnished the brushes and the easel. Thank you. Galarraga takes the change for strike 1. 7-1, Viola and the Mets on top of the Expos. Mets leave for Pittsburgh after today's game. A couple of off days on the road trip, and then they return to Shea on the 26th of this month, Friday evening. With those Pittsburgh Pirates and then the coast teams. A lot of fun. 12. Make that 10 games over a 12-day period before the Mets go to the coast. Make your plans now. That ball fouled, and Cerrone heading out of there. know whether he thought the ball was fair or whether he thought it was the third out. He's looking into the dugout.
Give me a count.
I forgot how many outs there were in a ball game one time, and it was rather embarrassing. Bases loaded at Candlestick with Al Jackson on the mound pitching for the Cardinals. 2 outs, bases loaded, ground ball back to Al, and I was yelling, home, home. That's where Viola's going to head shortly. 2 outs here in the ninth. Frank has struck out 3. He has walked 1, giving up 5 hits, and has a 7-1 lead with Larry Walker, the batter. Outside corner. Misses away. 1-1 to Larry Walker. Ball and 2 strikes to Larry. So the Expos down to their last strike. Potentially. And the crowd on their feet. Popped up and out of play. Buddy Harrelson has seen a very strange week as far as the Mets are concerned. Very unusual caliber of play, but he's going to go to Pittsburgh with a 5-2 record as Walker checks it once again. Buck Rogers just the other way around, 2-5 for Bucks Expos as they head home for their opener, and they face the Mets for 3 games this weekend. Fly ball left field. Carry on is over, and that's what the ball does. Carries on. Still 1-2 to Larry Walker. Not a happy group of Expos. Another one tapped foul. Still a ball and 2 strikes to Larry Walker. 2 outs here in the ninth. 7-1 New York. Curve misses. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Larry. Walker 0 for 3 on the afternoon. Spots 5, 6, and 7 for the Expos are now 0 for 11 on the afternoon, as Frank Viola records his first victory of the 1991 campaign. The Mets are now 5-2 on the year. Viola giving up only 1 run and 5 hits, striking out 3 and walking 1. So Frankie V is in the victory column. 20-12 last year. A fine ball game. The losing pitcher, Chris Nabholz, his record now 0-1. We've got Kiner's Corner coming up for you today. I'll be back with a wrap right after this from Federal Express. We'll be right back.
Kiner's Corner is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers, with that clean, crisp, cold taste. Nothing beats a Bud. By NatWest Banks, raising the standards of banking. And by Mitsubishi, bringing you a full line of award-winning automobiles. See them all at your Mitsubishi Motors dealer. Well, welcome to Kiner's Corner, the last game of this homestand, and a very profitable homestand for the New York Mets as they came up with a winning record, winning 5 of the 7 games played here, and a fine pitching performance by the Mets pitcher, Frank Viola, who came up with the second complete game victory for the Mets as Doc Gooden had one yesterday. Mets winning by a score of 7-1. We're going to be talking to Frank Viola, looking at the highlights of the ball game and also checking out the scores of other games in the major leagues right after this message from Budweiser.
Rusty Staub for Budweiser.
When your friendly bartender slides a cold Bud across the bar to you, he's completing the final step in a quality control system that began in a field of golden barley. From the selection of the finest natural ingredients, to the slow, careful brewing and aging process, to the guys who take it off the trucks and put it on the shelves. Every step a Budweiser takes before it gets to you has only one objective: to put the freshest, highest quality product possible into your hands. So the clean, crisp, cold taste of the king of beers is something you can always count on. Budweiser's commitment to quality doesn't end when the beer rolls out the brewery gates. They ask for that same commitment from wholesalers and the distributors and retailers to make sure all that quality is carefully delivered right to you. When they say somebody still cares about quality, they're talking about everybody who helps bring you Budweiser. After all, New Yorkers, this Bud's for you.
Well, our special guest, Frank Viola, the winning pitcher in the ball game, looking like the Incredible Hulk here with the ice pack on his left arm or shoulder. And, of course, Frank, an incredible pitching performance here today on a very windy, brisk day. And, Frank, after pitching a very good ball game your first time out, you came back and took it all in control here today.
Well, I'll tell you what, it makes it a lot easier to pitch when they score 4 runs in the first inning for you, too. And, you know, I didn't strike out too many today. I put the ball in play, and guys made some great plays behind me. And that's going to win a lot of ball games. And, you know, they covered for me well today.
I thought one of the things in the ball game that seemed to establish itself early in the ball game and on through the ball game was the fact that your fastball inside really set up your other pitches.
Yeah, the one example I remember more than anything was the second and third in the 6th inning, I think, with Galarraga.
Galarraga at the plate in the 6th.
Fastball in, set up the change up away and got him out.
That was the only really hard part of the ball game for you because the time run was at the plate at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, working with Rick Cerrone, too, he's not afraid to go inside. You know, and Charlie O'Brien's the same way. So, you know, when they put that in our head, don't be afraid to go inside. It makes our job a lot easier because they give you that target.
Well, you like to pitch inside, and actually left-handers have to pitch inside to be effective.
Especially if you got that slow stuff you have to use to get them out, so it makes it that much more effective.
Well, let's take a look at some of this. There's the inside pitch.
That was the first batter of the game, fastball in.
And Grissom, the batter, right there, and you set up that strike on the inside corner. That was the other thing about pitching inside. You were getting strikes on the inside corner rather than missing inside, and that kind of sets it up for you, too.
Right. The one pitch I remember that I wanted to go inside and left it out over the plate was that solo homer that Wallach hit in the second.
Yeah,
but other than that, it went pretty well.
It went better than pretty well. Of course, your first time out, you gave up only 1 run in 6 innings and left the game trailing 1-0.
Well, as I said, you know, when you get 7 runs, you better take charge and take advantage of it. And, you know, 4 runs in the first, they made it real easy.
Well, it's never that easy because the 4 runs of the first, they did have the time run to the plate, but you really breezed through the ball game. And, of course, that game, your 138th win in your major league career. And you're 26 for the New York Mets, and pitching here in New York hasn't been bad for you.
I love it.
You like it, huh? Well, speaking of that, now we got to talk a little bit about your future.
Something like this would come up. Go ahead.
Your future in New York. Of course, you were offered a contract and you didn't accept that, and you say we'll talk about it when, at the end of the season.
At the end of the season. Before anybody can file for free agency, the team that you play for has a 2-week period, I believe, something like that, 10-day, 2-week period to talk to you. And, you know, basically what I'm going to do is go out there and pitch. I didn't shut the doors on anybody, you know, and I love it here. That's all I say. And whatever happens, happens.
I got to ask you this question because it certainly has run through my mind, and I'm sure a lot of the people that follow baseball closely would ask the same question. The contract was a 3-year contract, long-term contract, right. And you're into your career now. A point now, if you had accepted the contract instead of gambled, because if your arm gets sore or if you don't have a good year, you're going to get a lot less offered to you. You're gambling on the fact you're going to have a good year this year, and you could have taken this and say, hey, I'm set for the rest of my life.
Well, it doesn't come down to the money right now. Basically, what it comes down to is I'm going out there every 5th day. I'm going to give you 35 starts a year. I'm going to go out there and bust my tail every game. You know, I hate making the comparison between Clemens, Good, and myself, so, you know, it's just not the point. But, you know, when you look at their contracts, what they were given, granted, they might have been given too much. Mm-hmm. But, heck, I feel personally that I'm in the class with them. And, you know, the difference right now is just too great for me to feel good about. Monetarily, it doesn't matter. I go out there and play for a penny. I go out there, and I want to be the best pitcher in baseball. I don't care who's going up against me. I'm going to challenge anybody. So it doesn't come down to that. It just it's the comfort zone, and I just didn't feel comfortable taking that number right at the present time.
Well, that's certainly your prerogative. You got your choice, and you certainly have the numbers to back up being compared with the 2 top pitchers, right-handed pitchers in baseball.
Well, I'd like to think so, but you know, it is a chance. And every time I go out there every 5th day, it's going to be a chance. My arm might fall off or whatever, but you know, I feel good about myself, the way I take care of myself, and you know, I'm on my 10th year, and I've never missed a start, so I think everything will work out.
Well, you certainly haven't missed any starts. You've got one of the most consistent records for innings pitched in a season of any pitcher around, and you certainly didn't hurt your chances at all today.
It's a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun year. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, and Frank Viola, the winning pitcher in the ball game, winning the ball game 7-1, and I want to thank Frank for coming on, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Thanks, Ralph.
Frank Viola, and we'll be back right after this message from Nat West Bank. The highlights of the ball game. Vince Coleman led off the inning with a walk, a double by Keith Miller, another walk to Jeffries, and then Hubie Brooks coming up with a 2 RBI single. The Mets took the lead by a score of 2-0. And then in the bottom of the first, in that same inning, when the Mets set 9 to the plate, Rick Cerrone came up with a 2-out single that scored Jeffries and Hubie Brooks, and the Mets were leading by a score of 4-0 after 1 inning of play. In the top of the second inning, Tim Wallach puts the Montreal Expos on the board as he hits his first home run of the year over the left field fence. That made it a 4-1 ball game. Wallach, an outstanding hitter for the Montreal Expos, getting his first of the season. After the Mets got 2 more runs on walks that forced in runs, they get a special home run from Kevin Elster, who had 3 hits in the ball game and starting his first game at shortstop, and the Mets are leading by a score of 7-1. And in the top of the 9th inning with 2 men out, Larry Walker, the final man to bat in the ball game, flies out, and this time it's to Keith Miller at second base, and the Mets win it by a score of